Welcome to our next episode of Cities Speak. I'm Clarence Anthony, your host, CEO and Executive Director of the National League of Cities. This month, I'm honored to be joined by two friends of mine, Mark and Alison Hayes. Of course, Mark is the Executive Director of the Arkansas Municipal League, and Alison is his partner, life partner, and friend, and mine as well. And Arkansas Municipal League is one of our state municipal leagues that serve over 500 cities and towns in the state of Arkansas. The conversation that we're going to have today is one that is a personal conversation that Mark and I have been talking about for years, and he's been willing to share his story because he wants it to help others. A few years ago, in early 2020, Mark shared some heartbreaking news. He and his wife, Alison, had just lost their 23-year-old son, Wells, to an overdose. Since then, Mark and Alison has made it their mission to do something about this crisis, both professionally and personally. In partnership with the Association of Arkansas Counties, he formed the Arkansas Opioid Recovery Partnership, an unprecedented united front between representatives of local governments against opioid misuse in Arkansas. The group supports local governments in developing and implementing evidence-based programs and strategies to abate the opioid epidemic and help them effectively use settlement funds from drug companies to combat this crisis. The reality is that while its impact are felt more intensely in some places than in others, the opioid epidemic is touching every community in America. And we've got to do something about this issue because it is not going away. So let me just first say hello to Mark and Alison and say thank you so much for willing to open up, share your story, and help others. Welcome, guys.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. We made a pact as a family early on after Wells died that we would be public and we would be straightforward, upfront about what happened in hopes of helping other people. So thank you for the introduction. Appreciate that.
You guys know I'm fortunate to know the story and read the stories about Wells. And if you don't mind, I hate to, honestly, hate to have you relive, but like you said, you want to share. Tell us a little bit about your son.
Wells hit the ground running at 9 pounds, 8 ounces and never stopped. He was a great kid. He was soccer. He was skateboard. He was everything, not school so much, but anything fun. And he grew up fishing and golfing and hunting. And he was just an active guy's guy, but he was also sweet and smart and loved a good political argument and kind. And he was a big boy, 6 feet, 200 and something pounds, but he gave great hugs. And he was a son to be proud of raising. I will just say I loved him very much. And up until he was given the world a lot, we pictured great things for him.
Yeah, I've seen some of the photos and the stories that Mark and I become blog and email pals around this incident and experience. And you've written a lot about your son, Wells, and the experiences that you had from his addiction and your attempts to help him. If you don't mind, could you share a little bit about what it was like going through his addiction and his challenges?
Wells came into my life at 10. And while I guess technically my stepson, I considered him my son like my other sons, Colin and Franz, and I considered Bliss my daughter. And we were really a pretty tight-knit group. It could have been a train wreck. We've talked about it many times, but it actually worked out very well. I think we knew pretty quickly that they were getting along when they were lying for each other. So we knew pretty fast what was happening. And Wells, I'll tell you, the thing that always amazed me about him, and Alison said it kind of briefly. He was he probably the smartest one of the four. I mean, he was absolutely brilliant, and he wasn't well directed from an educational perspective. But if it was something he really liked and enjoyed, he could give you the almost a photographic memory review of things. He had the opportunity at, I don't know, 12, 13 to go to the Galapagos Islands with a cousin. And when he came back, he was able to tell us virtually everything they did every single day. They were there, everything they saw. It was a really interesting side of him to see when he dug into something, just how incredible his intellect was. And then I think the other thing that really, he touched a lot more lives than we realized, and we became familiar with that, unfortunately, after his death. He really had an incredible impact on a large group of his peers, and he was very helpful from an emotional support perspective, and just a very caring, loving guy. We all kind of knew that. He was funny and he had all kinds of funny sayings, but there's sort of this big teddy bear kind of thing to him. And people loved him, and his friends, they just were very, very supportive. And then unfortunately, as he went through high school and then into college, he was really a great fraternity pledge, but his behavioral patterns began to show. Anything that was fun, he was willing to do, but the work side of it, he wasn't. And when he essentially came home because the university said you can't be here, that's when the side of him that unfortunately was the last 2 years of our life began to appear. And he was making bad decisions, not holding jobs very long at all, even if he could get one. He was looking for the easiest path for any single thing. And Alison said this about him, I think, even when he was a little boy. The good stuff he loved. He loved anything instant gratification. He was, like, wow, this is fun. And, he'd do that, whatever that might be from an entertainment perspective, or even, like I said, the Galapagos Islands thing, I mean, from an intellectual perspective. But if it was fun for him, he was all in. And unfortunately, we all know that work and the responsibilities of life aren't always fun. And we began to see some troubling behaviors. And
let me jump in here.
Yeah, absolutely.
When he had to come home, all of his friends that had been his running buddies and since young, suddenly they were staying in school and they were going off onto their lives. And so he felt an embarrassment, feeling unsuccessful, feeling like a failure. He had 3 siblings that had graduated college. And that, I think, started this depression, this sort of self-loathing that started, I think, the downward spin.
Alison, how did the pandemic and the being secluded away from friends or that period?
It was very difficult for folks with substance abuse issues, not Wells, but others that were doing 12 steps and had mentors and all that, couldn't get to them. And it was just easy to miss a Zoom meeting. They didn't get the support. For Wells, he wasn't there yet. But what we now know, somehow, even though we were all locked in that house, and as far as we knew, we were all locked in that house, somehow he was getting drugs. And so, on one hand, I guess it was easier because we were all sort of doing our own thing. But it was, he passed away in April. And so there's no funeral. There's no people coming over offering condolences. There's nothing. But I think it would have happened anyway. But somehow someone was getting drugs into our home when when COVID started.
Yeah, and I think that isolation for him just deepened what was already a pretty serious depression and anxiety level. And he found comfort in being able to escape. And we're probably beginning with opioid pills stolen from places, codeine cough syrup, that kind of thing. And then relatively certain he graduated to black tar heroin, which in turn turns to mixtures of fentanyl and heroin. And it just when it went sideways, it went in a hurry, and it was really, really ugly.
Well, and he lost himself in video games. That was a escape, and to the point it was probably he was probably abusing. I mean, we couldn't get him away, but the games now, you step into the games, and so he was playing with people all over the world, and we couldn't get him away. But at that time, we were all closed off from society, and it was bad. But then, and he even would say, "Well, what am I going to do? What I love game. What do you want me to do?"
It was like a second addiction almost. The
That's right.
games
Yeah.
were.
Yeah, because I mean that happened to a lot of people during the pandemic, and I'll let our listeners know. One of the things, again, I know Mark and Allison, and Mark has shared a number of heartbreaking things with me. But one thing that you talked about was your many attempts, and then can you talk about your last attempt, if you mind?
One of the most disturbing parts of the aftershock of this is how much that 2.5 year period blurred together. The overdoses are one on top of each other. And we've even at times kind of looked at the other and said, well, which one was first? I can't quite remember. And I think we've all decided the first one was the 2 a.m. Knock on the door and blue lights, cops screaming at us, let us in. And we didn't know what was going on. Anybody here? And they charged downstairs when I pointed down there and had to kick a door in. And he had a game control in his hand. He was in his chair looking at a screen, and he literally was just had begun to turn blue. And they had to hit him with Narcan. The cops did twice. Firefighters showed up. They had to bag him and put two additional doses in him before he ever got revived. And that was just a profoundly shattering moment for all of us.
Well, that really was the moment we knew there was a problem. I had no idea that he was doing anything like that. I mean, I knew he smoked pot. He and I talked about it. He was 20-something years old. I didn't love it, but we had discussed it. That overdose shocked us beyond anything I can tell you, because we had no idea. And suddenly he's dying in his bedroom. And the only reason he was saved is he was in one of those video games at 2 a.m, and he quit talking and started breathing hard. And thank goodness one of the players knew Mark's name, didn't know his address, called the police, said, I think there's a problem. Here's the name. They live in West Little Rock. And they looked it up. And that is the only reason, thank God for that angel of a child. And so they showed up, banged on our door. Not only was that stunning, but my child has overdosed. That's like Rolling Stones sort of. I mean, you just think, what?
We went through we took him to a 30-day rehab. That was
Kicking and screaming.
Yeah, he didn't want to go. And when he came back, there were more overdoses. So we put him in a program that was supposed to go for a year. And he got kicked out at 5 months. He was engaging some over-the-counter stuff that you could get, at any of the convenience marts in Alabama. And he and another kid got a bunch of it, and they got, pretty much stoned off of it. And when confronted, the other kid finally admitted it, said, yeah, I want to stay. But Wells never would. And this was really, I think, the moment, at least from my perspective, that I felt like we were on a very, very short glide path with him. He refused to acknowledge it, and eventually I told him, Alison told him, his dad told him, Bliss told him, nobody's coming to get you. You're in Alabama. Nobody's coming to get you. You either fess up and stick out the program or you're on your own. And they took him to a homeless center in downtown Birmingham, Alabama. And talk about a rude awakening for him as to what life is really all about when you're on the streets. It was stunning. He got very, very sick within 5 or 6 days, and eventually Alison went and got him and brought him home. There were some other overdoses, and in fact, I'm not sure we really know the total count because we found out at least 2 others at an emergency room. We didn't know anything about it. Friends just dumped him off at the front door.
We got the bills from the hospital.
Yeah,
after
I'm like,
he
what
was
is
dead.
this?
Yeah, what is this in the emergency room?
But the last one was terrible. I mean, and the one that took his life. And I tell you, it's brutally realistic when you see this kind of thing for yourself. And that the night before, we suspected rather strongly that he was high, and candidly, Alison and I had an enormous fight that night about it. I was saying, he cannot be here. He is going to kill himself, or he's going to drive us, to absolute insanity. So it turns out he stole, I don't know.
Well, I said, I'm not kicking him out unless I have solid evidence. I'm going to go get a drug test in the morning. And if he pops hot, I agree, he's out. So I did go get that drug test.
And about, that was 9:00. She went and got it in the morning, Saturday morning.
He was supposed to meet, because Mark was so suspicious. He said, meet me at 9:00. We got things to do at this house. You're going to help me. He said, okay, I'll be up and at him. So at 9:30, we hadn't heard from him, and that's when hell started.
I went downstairs, Alison on my heels, and
we thought we were just going to be throwing ice in his face.
Yeah.
Get your lazy self up.
His bedroom door was open, and then I turned around, the bathroom door was closed, locked, fan was on, and I kicked the door in.
We yelled.
We yelled at him.
See if he was just in there.
And no response. So kicked the door in, and he's laying on his back, boxer shorts, turning blue, and vomit all over his face, eyes in his mouth, cleared it out. I started doing CPR. Nobody should see their child that way. I love the boy a lot, like my own, but a mother's love is a different level. And I mean, just listening to I can't describe for you the animalistic wails from Alison, seeing her son like that. It's that sound, the visions still haunt me. It was awful. And I did CPR on him for like 3 minutes before the cops finally got there. And then
Mark started, I ran and got the phone, called 911. And then from that point, I was up and down the stairs, down screaming at Wells to wake up, please wake up, please wake up. Mark's pumping his chest, running upstairs in the driveway, screaming, where's the first responders? And it just was a terrorizing, because we really, in our hearts, felt like, okay, we're going to get him through this one again, even though we were the ones having to deal with it instead of other folks Narcaning him.
In retrospect, I think in our heart of hearts, we knew it was over, and it was just absolutely devastating to realize in your own home, 30 feet from you, this person you love and you've helped support and raise has essentially accidentally taken their own life. The impact of it remains very, very deep in our psyche. We've done a lot of work. And Alison, I'll just tell you, I'm really proud of the work that she's done to get herself through it. She did a substantial trauma, PTSD, counseling.
Tell them what the rest of the day was, what caused it.
Yeah. So the rest of the day, this is a terrible part of this.
But I think it's important. I think this is this is what people need to hear. It's not just the overdose; it's the aftermath.
The family impact. Yeah.
Yes.
Family and just the emergency crews and all the things that go on that it's so stunning to your system. So essentially the police take over and the firefighters and emergency personnel go downstairs. I'm upstairs with Allison.
Because we're hoping against all hope they're down there reviving him.
Right.
Narcanning and whatever else. We don't know if he's dead, if he's alive or what. So we're just on pins and needles.
Just waiting. And it was probably 20 minutes before somebody came up and told us that he was dead, maybe 30.
Well, a female cop came out to the front door and I said, "Is he okay? Has he made it?" She goes, "Oh, no, he's dead." So that's how I found out.
It was awful. And then the coroner has to come doing a total investigation, pictures, the whole 9 yards. Then the detectives are there. You get interviewed. And it's 3 hours of that sort of thing. And you realize your dead child is downstairs and you can't do anything. There's absolutely nothing you can do but answer questions. We're sobbing. We've got neighbors coming out. What's happened? We call our priest, our Episcopal priest, Danny, God love him, came over. But it was 3 or 3.5 hours before they brought him up. And this is really, I'll tell you, this is a stunning thing to watch. And I know it haunts Alison to this day, but they brought him up in a body bag, a yellow body bag, and we put him on a gurney in front of the house. Our priest said, "I'll do last rites." And we put our hands on him and it's like, there's
no way to comprehend.
That's his leg. That's his shoulder. It was all.
To look at your child is zipped up in that body bag is the most profound. There's no, I remember I put my hand, I was at the end on his head and I just thought, I couldn't even stand up. It's just, there's no words. I don't even.
They roll him into a nondescript van and I'm having to hold her. She's trying to go pull him out.
Just scream, "Don't take my child, don't take my child." And those coroner people, I guess they're supposed to, they don't even look at you. They just get it, shove him in the back, shut the doors, and I just watched that van drive up the street, and I thought I was going to die. I thought the life of my body is getting ready to escape.
Well, in a lot of ways, probably to you, a part of you at that point did go with him. And you're so brave to share all of this. And I got to tell you, I was so hesitant as your friend to ask you to be here because I did not want you to relive this. But I think what you guys are doing is so helpful because you're using your grief, your experience to educate others. And Mark, you work with Arkansas municipal or cities and counties to bring this to light. How are city leaders in Arkansas leading differently, or are they recognizing that Arkansas has a opioid fentanyl challenge? Do you really think that we are aware of this?
We weren't. We are now. We've gone to great lengths to educate local governmental officials, city and county, and I thank God for the partnership we've got with the Association of Arkansas Counties and our dear friend, the executive director, Chris Valines. He and I, we partnered up on many things when I became the executive director, but he was one of the first people to reach out, and we were just bound and determined to make a difference. So we have spoken together at all of my conferences and at his. We have traveled the state, and I think more importantly, we partnered up on communication across the board in our in any form or fashion you can think of, magazines and podcasts and Facebook postings, et cetera, et cetera. The real difference, and I'm very proud of what this state has done. We're the only state in the union that has come together, all three branches of government, so all 75 counties, all 499 cities and towns. In the state of Arkansas, we have the only lawsuit of its kind in the country, and we're getting things done, and we're getting things done because local officials, mayors, and county judges talk to each other about what the gaps are and what the things that are missing in their counties. They talk with their police chiefs, they talk with their doctors and hospitals and clinics. And that's the magic of this, is that we are hitting the gaps that need to be hit in a particular part of the state. So if they need bed space, the settlement monies can be used for detox bed space. If they need sober living homes, we're funding sober living homes. I say this all the time. We put a lot of Narcan out into a lot of different places, and I was criticized for that as not being necessarily an effort to stop the problem. And I said, well, you can't stop the problem if people are dead. You can't get them well and sober if they're dead. So the first start is, if we have to Narcan somebody 12 times and they finally on the 13th get it and they get sober and become an active part of society, that's a win. And that is the kind of thing that we're doing across the state. And it's been a really gratifying thing to watch. I can't tell you that all local officials are keenly aware of the problem, but I strongly suspect 90% of them are. We have worked really diligently to get the message across.
What is one thing you wish everybody knew about this crisis, both individually, meaning personally as parents, and then as a municipal leader, Mark? But Allison, let me start with you. As Mark said, there's nothing like the love of a mother, and I'm a baby. Even at this stage, I'm still my mama's baby. What one thing you wish everyone knew about this crisis that we're having in America, or this crisis that you went through?
I wish that people would not be naive, that this happens right under your nose, that Wells was raised in a very nice family with good resources. His very best friend died 2 years before. His dad was a very, very successful surgeon. His friend, who he made at rehab in Alabama, died 2 days after Wells did. So there's not a druggy culture anymore. The druggy culture is an entire generation, and we didn't know Wells was that bad off, but we do now know that the crisis is so profound, and it doesn't matter how well you raise your children, because they can get opioids. It's a fast food generation. They want everything now. They want a pill to help them cram, so they go find an ADHD pill on the street. So don't be naive. Talk to your kids. It doesn't matter how successful or educated. It's an entire generation, and it's happening in nice families. It's happening in families that don't have as many resources. It doesn't pick, and parents have got to quit being naive and thinking, well, it's not going to happen to me, because that's what we thought. That's what Joe's parents thought. That's what Ben's parents thought.
It is everywhere. To answer your question, what I wish folks knew is that it is quite literally in front of them, in all likelihood, on a daily basis.
The statistics are, if every single day, a full 740 is it 747 plane would crash every single day and kill every passenger on it. That is how many people are dying of overdoses every day. And you think if that was happening, truly happening, what the government and our world would be doing to figure out why. But that's how many people are dying every single day from drug overdoses.
So, Mark, to municipal leaders, would you advise one thing or two to state municipal leagues or mayors, council members, city managers all over America? What kind of advice would you give them as we deal with this challenge?
It is a community-wide problem, as Allison's pointed out. The fentanyl addiction, the opioid addiction knows no boundaries. It knows nothing about social circles or money or neighborhoods, educational levels. It is quite literally pervasive in any and every aspect of our society you can think of. And municipal officials are, in my mind, the best prepared to try to get to the bottom of the problem in their community because they have the ability to reach out to local hospitals, counselors, religious groups, AA groups, NA groups. They know their community and they can begin to talk to people in each of those elements of their society so that they get an actual picture of what's going on. That when you go to an emergency room, physician or nurse and ask them about it, they'll tell you flat out what happens. Churches are now beginning to finally understand that they can make a big difference. So it's a community-wide effort that is required to make things better. And that begins at an educational level. School districts, you have got to start talking realistically and in meaningful ways. Let me just tell you, I'm 63 years of age. If I go into a junior high school, they're not going to listen to me. They don't want to, I'm not the best messenger. So find the best messenger for an elementary school. And I hate to say it, but it is, yes. You need to start there. Junior high, high school, recognize in colleges that some of the kids who start there have had no exposure to anything like this. And then all of a sudden, they're in the deep end of the pool without even understanding how they got there. All of that requires an educational effort and communication between all aspects of a community. The Chamber of Commerce, I don't care what whatever it is, you have to grab all of those people and get them around a table so that everybody's dealing with the same baseline information. And then you discover pretty quickly what you're really good at. You find the places you've got detox beds or you've got a Suboxone clinic or whatever you may have, but you also discover very quickly what you don't have. And it's the don't have side of the equation that has to be fixed. You can help a lot of people with one or two things, but you can't help the problem unless you've got a complete package.
Well, let me just say that, America, we have a problem and we have to face up to it. And what you guys are saying, that unless we work together as a full community, as teams, whether it's the business community, the philanthropic community, our municipal community, we can't address this crisis unless we all work together and wake up, because we do have a problem. I want to thank you all and say that so many times we've seen where family members pass because of a drug addiction or some other addiction, and we don't talk about it and we don't share the experience so that others can learn. You guys are so brave. I admire you so much I pray that I don't go through this, but if I did, the strength that you're showing is unimaginable to me at this point. But wow, the fact that you're able to do this, Alison, is to me just unbelievable, but admirable. And so I want to thank you guys so much again for sharing this, because we need to make progress in this, or we're going to lose a generation of fast food, as Alison shared, communities that we need in order America to be the great place it is. So again, I thank you all for sharing your story. I'm going to do my best, as Mark knows, every time I give him an opportunity to write a blog or to share a story, I do that because I know others need to know and hear the story. And I want to finally just tell you, I love both of you guys. I love being with you when I'm with you in person, and I appreciate you. And again, thank you guys for joining me on this episode of City Speak.
Thank you for giving us the opportunity, because we just don't want Wells to have died in vain. If we can help one kid, one parent, then that's a success.
Well, he will not be forgotten, because you guys are going to keep him alive, the positive as well as the challenges, because life is not perfect. I think you are doing the right thing, and I admire you again. So again, thank you so much. I appreciate you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Clarence.
Thanks for listening to City Speak with Clarence Anthony. If you like this show, let us know. Share this episode with your friends and make sure to subscribe. We're curious to hear what you think, what you want more of, and how we can improve. If you have feedback or an idea for a guest you'd like Clarence to sit down with, send us your thoughts at cityspeakpodcast@nlc.org. Join us next month for a new episode. Like and subscribe here or wherever you get your podcasts. See you next time.